Hey, how you doing? We're gonna do a puzzle rush and see how I do. You gotta bear with me. I haven't done puzzle rush in a while, so let's give her a go. There we go. Let's see. Let's check. Let's check. A1. Take up. Right check. Yep, this is it. This is me. Let's see here. So if I win the queen. Oh no, I'm gonna check, then I win. Yeah. Let me see here. Ah, this wins a piece. Let's see here. Oh, this wins. Let me see here. I have it done. Some of these puzzles are interesting. Let's see if I check. Ah, here we go. So if I take with the knight here on e5, if it doesn't take with the knight, then I meet, yeah. Check, checkmate. Well, let's do one. This just gets us warmed up. Let's see here. So check. This, I believe, wins a piece. Let's see here. Let's see here. So. Check, over, check, yep. Oh, checkmate there. Okay. And let's see, why did I go wrong here? This. So it's not that. Ah, you win the. Yeah, okay. Alright. Let's give her. We'll play it again, Sam. Let's see, rotate chat. Let's see. Ah, got it. Oh. Let me, 1 second. Let's try it one more time. Sorry. Got in a little rut there. One more and then we'll get started into our other stuff. It's just good to get a refresh on so check here. And mate. Let me see there. This one's See rook, C1 takes. Knight takes. Should have seen that one. Okay, get him moving and grooving on this one. Takes, king takes, check. Takes. Okay. Let's get her moving and grooving now. Did two, and then we'll get onto these. It's fun to warm up with that. Let's go to studies now. Let's add the new subtitle. A4 is, oops, worries. Enlarge this. A4, A6, D4, D5, knight C3, bishop B4. Okay, so this is in this chapter we are going to examine White's fourth move dodges of the main line, Winier. excuse me, whether there is no sign of universal one plan fits all, the difficulty level of the lines may vary from basically punky, kind of not so good, to operating to 100 years old oak tree, as he says. I dream of living in a uh, world where, of course, there is a fantasy of facing tactics, who live for basically great violence. So they're talking about tactical nuances that are like boom, 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 kaboom. That it mows down your opponent, and which can give very good tactics. There are pits and pitfalls though to this. There's rough lines that aren't so good for white. There are some rough lines that aren't so good for black, and we're going to be going over both, some of those, a little bit later on and a little bit right now. One line that they were talking about is e takes d5, which leads to toothless line eggs of the exchange variation, where the landscape is, he says, kind of boring and alternative to basically e5 push. And then there's B line, which would be knight g e2, and then there's one line a3, and then there's another line bishop d3, and then finally, but not the thing, is bishop d2. But we're going to be going over e takes d. The first game is e takes d. So this move is milk toast, as he likes to call it, for any hope of any advantage based on handling black. That can end up with a kind of exchange variation setup with natural tactical attackers would love this. This was actually from the author who played this game. He said that his friend that he was facing in one of the tournaments played this on him, and he was really happy. And so after e takes d, he played h3. h3 was played here. This is the Winier delayed exchange variation. More principled move than recapturing. We take out fair shape of the center. We take some, and it says so. That's one move. This is an interesting line, by the way. Not too exciting. So f5, bishop f5. Preparing to basically hit the light squared bishop. Knight f3. Knight e2. This supports black's excuse me, black's f5 pawn, or bishop in piece. So bishop d3, knight b c6, and then bishop f4, bishop takes, pawn takes. But this is actually an interesting line here. We weigh the considerations on chopping on c3. This attempts to play and win against a lower level player by creating an imbalance of the bishop for a knight. always from the hyper setting state of being one to threaten, with entering various visions of the exchange variation. So this is black is the higher level player in this scenario. If black were, I mean, if I should say rephrase that, if black were the higher level and his opponent went down this odd exchange line, taking here throws your opponent into an imbalance, which you have two knights and they have a wrecked queen side. So it's the player with the higher rating that would usually be able to find the tactics that end up winning here. When an object breaks, it either heals into a stronger version of itself or it just can't patch together again. It is easy to tell which way it will go for white's queenside pawns. This is an easy way to find out which way it's going to go. It's going to go this way. And the reason this fractures and causes serious concessions for white, because now white has 3 pawn islands and black only has 2. So if we entered an endgame at this moment right now, we would be actually better. So if all of our pieces got traded off, but the king would be black's king would be better because of these two weak points here. Alrighty. So A5. The idea is to block up the C file. Bishop B1, I mean rook B1, not bishop B1. F6. This stops the knight from coming in. Rook E1. Wait, did I miss castling? Oh no, I missed castling. Criminally. Castles and castles. Oh, I apologize there. Bishop F4. Bishop takes. Takes, and then knight A5, and then rook B1. There we go, and then F6 to deprive the E5 square from the knight. And now rook E1. Bishop G6 here. This is so that if bishop takes, the knight can plop itself right in. Bishop B5, which is a mistake here. G6 is an interesting line. There's also bishop takes E and C takes E, which after white seizes control of C4, there's a problem for black. But B5, one moment of planlessness and otherwise well thought out ideas can easily lapse into an abyss of trouble. This is an inexperienced waste, unexpected waste of 2 tempos. White should play with something like knight H2 exclam, and tending to h4, h5 setup. c6, bishop d3, rook e8, and queen d2, connecting the rooks. Oh, hold on, I think I made a let's see, oh, queen d7, that's it. Rook e2, which is again dubious. It's a dubious move, man. Dubious. The window of intervention narrows. It would have been better for white to have played h4 here is better. Now knight c4. Bishop takes was also a mistake at this point. Again, I should do, yeah, a mistake. Excuse me. The bargain stacks in one side. White should back down, retain some degree of control over the position, and actually play queen d1. It's hard to have, yeah. It's hard to actually get in and say what actually to do after takes, pawn takes there. Not only, well, we're going over some lines, so in the French Winier, this is the fourth move alteration. You're more than welcome to stick around, and we'll go through it with us. Black owns more potential of the bishop, but Black's knight can reroute to d5 and get a lot of control. It's interesting how Black's, usually in the French, the dark squared bishop or light squared bishop is usually the bad piece, but here the light squared bishop is good. Usually the light squared bishop is bad in the French, but here, surprisingly, it's good. So b to e1, knight d5, knight h4, bishop to f7 exclam. I mean, interesting move. I saw a small tactic, yet rejected it since I mistakenly thought my advantage was greater not putting into play this combination. The computer admonished me, however, and instead played this move here. Queen takes c2. If queen takes c2, bishop takes, knight takes f4, which overloads the queen and wins a pawn. Since if rook takes, rook takes, rook takes, queen takes, queen takes, knight takes, and a pawn is Black's left up a clear pawn yet. The position is kind of awkward. It does get to this point later on. So f3, knight f. Here we go. Rook takes, rook takes. Bishop h5 exclam. king h2. g4 actually is a losing combination. You can meet it with rook takes. Oh, interesting. I'll have to look into that. Thank you for that advice. Guess I didn't know that. And then here, that's why this was a mistake. It actually would pick up material here, so that after king h2, you could actually takes, and then you can actually retreat back at this point and still be attacking here. So he's in trouble. This pawn's gonna fall. Just gotta get a drink. 1 second. Excuse me. Allergies sometimes. Okay, dokie. So king h1. Okay. Bishop takes f. Pawn takes, of course. And so now this structure's wrecked. This structure's wrecked. Rook e8. Now trading down helps black. So if white were to trade down, it'd help black in this setting because knights are better in close games. And this is a semi-close position. So b5. Black's just making his position better. Their position better, I mean. Queen, bishop g3. And king f7. Just making the position better. No reason to re-hook up white's pawns. Not one reason at all. I would king g2. Okay, rook e6. Queen e1. Queen e7. And then h4. This creates another pawn target for black. So f5, kerplunk, exclam. This is a wonderful move. It puts, if you want to think about it, it puts a pawn on the opposite color of this of white's bishop. So how many pawns are on light squares when the bishop's a dark square? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the 7 pawns for black are on light squares. So all we have to do is do 2 more, and then when we trade off, this bishop is considered a useless piece. In Jeremy Silman's terms, it's considered a tall, useless pawn. But he calls it a tall pawn. I sometimes I added the useless because if it can't attack anything, then it's useless. So it's considered a tall pawn. So takes here, queen takes, and then queen d2. Because if the queens come off the board, it's over. White must keep queens on the board, or else black's knight will pick up the c3 pawn. And white won't be able to do anything in that scenario. So black's like, bring it, Black's not even worried if the queen trades happen and this pawn gets fractured, this one pawn. Black doesn't much mind because the c3 pawn is a weakness enough to merit that, and then that pawn will fall and the whole house will start collapsing, like dominoes. When you set up dominoes and then you click the dominoes click and then it goes click 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 like that. That's kind of what would happen to White's pawn structure. Would just fall apart if the queens come off the board. So f4 gets played. Now this bishop is considered a entombed piece. It's in Jeremy Soman's endgame book. This is wonderful for the side who has the piece. So if we can get these queens off the board, now this knight would rule the world, as I like to say. He would be on his white steed and or in this case black steed, and just roam around being Mr. Charming in the story tales. He would vanquish all the pawns and be the hero of the kingdom. Get a medal for valor, like Harry the H pawn always does. He would get a medal for his valor as well. White's bishop is no more than a glorified pawn. Yep, there we go. Those guilty looks is one that who basically is sad. So this is a really interesting setup. This is a sad position. That's what the author is saying. It's really sad for White. The bishop is no more. It's like it's the pits, as I like to call it. Queen e6. If this is in line, if queen takes here, queen takes is hopeless. White is basically done at this point. We'll put a mistake thing here. A3, queen e4, check, king g1, and then h5 to finally set lockdown. This is just lockdown. Lock. These pawns aren't going anywhere. The only way that the bishop can get out is going f3. King f1, and then a5. Now we're starting to get a pawn on light square. We're 2 pawns again away from all light squares. I was low on clock and was determined to avoid an awful realm of meaningless play, where we cease to worry about chess aspects of our moves in an attempt to time each other out. We in turn set up hybrid binding pawn chains to completely take under control. The author was saying that a4 would be his next choice of play to basically set up a type of hybrid squeeze, a boa constricting thing. In this case, the winning process isn't it isn't like a countdown 1 2 3. You have to set up a pawn chain. It's like in some dynamic games, it's 1, 2, 3 knockout. But in closed and static positions, it could count all the way up to maybe 20 before I like to say the rocket launches, which is your counterattack or all the good stuff that we love to do. Let's see here. Okay. Queen H1 exclam was a type of dynamic position. The author was saying this would be the author's best opportunity to get some counterplay rather than go into kind of a 20 move countdown before an attack could arise. One second. Okay. Sometimes the headset makes my head a little itchy. King E2, and then Rook A1 to try to pluck off a pawn and win a pawn there. Queen G1, and then A4, King F8, G6, King G1, King E7, King F1, King D8, what the author said, the reason he played these moves is his opponent has really no moves, and you can actually take your sweet time and maneuver your pieces to their optimum placement. Rook G1, King D7, King F1, Queen F3. The moment of reckoning draws near. The F3 pawn will fall. King E1. I read that some long and accurate grows in the fear. So he's talking about that you don't want to release the pressure. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to wait to build up the pressure, and then at the right moment, like in canning, there's pressure that pressure the you can pressure like cans and stuff so you can keep them a long time. The hard part is to keep that tension in chess. So if here queen to E1 might have been better than the king move, knight takes, and white's unable to make a run at a perpetual check with E5 because that would actually be a mistake at this point. Since H1 would be mate, this would actually be mate. So what E did was then at this point the author took and resignation was implemented. Let's see how we do it for time. Perfect. We'll do a Magnus endgame. Let me get a drink really quick. Okay, studies. Oops, my studies. I have to get to the minus one here. Or edit. Clear the board. Let's get this endgame set up where it was Magnus to play against his opponent. This is a younger Magnus, so you gotta cut him a little slack. He still is young, and he was good in his endgame, even at a young age. So let's see here. Good, good. Okay. So, who's to move? White to move. Actually, it's black to move. Magnus is black here, so we gotta turn the board. Magnus castled. Oops. Castle queenside. Oh, did I? How come that castle in roll doesn't work? Huh. Let's try that again. Let's see why. let me let's go back to the board studies, and we'll go to the Magnus Carlsen game. Pull up a new board. May have something to do with that I may have to work the move out to that point. So d4, knight f6, c4, e6, g3, d4, or d5, bishop g2, c takes d, a4 check, bishop here, queen takes, bishop c6, bishop takes, knight takes, f5, queen d5, queen takes d5, e takes d5, castles, 94, bishop f4, oops, sorry, wrong f4, castles. I think I had the bishop in the wrong spot. Magnus played a novelty. It is slightly preferable to have played bishop d6 here. It gives edge to both sides. Castle, queen-sided. Rook d1, bishop e7 exclam. Come on. The idea I'm thinking is to try to double attack via is to come here for a double attack, also to double up the rooks to go after the e2 weakness. Black aims to gain space on the king side. 95 was actually a dubious waste of time. This move allows Black to accelerate his plan by playing G5 would be harmless, so actually this allows taking, bishop takes, f6, bishop f4, and then g5. Exclam, and this now is it allows the pawn storm to start elapsing in white's Black's position is gonna overwhelm the king side, because castling and queen side, it's who can, if both side castling, it's who can get to the opponent's king first and do a 1-2 knockout. After the bishop moves, I haven't looked at the game, I'm going to say that Magnus probably goes h5 after the bishop moves. Okay, bishop e3. Oh, bishop d6, interesting. It's an interesting move. I like this move as it makes it hard to read what Magnus is trying to do. The knight may go to c4, or the knight might go to f5, and either one would be pretty good for Magnus. So knight c4 at this point, bishop c1. So he's making everything passive. If c3 had been played here, instead b3 and rook d e8, or h5 could be played as well. This now makes the bishop really passive. b4 exclam is it's putting the tension on the knight. Carlsen was a specialist in instructive when to choose the knight over the bishop or vice versa. Rook d3. After knight a4, h5, a3, bishop b7, b3, knight d6, c3, c6. Black would be somewhat better due to his kingside initiative. Bishop takes. Again, the young Carlsen acts decisively. Postponing the capture with c3 was worth considering. But this does instantly say we're going for a knight versus bishop imbalance. d2 e1 now, or e8 to go after this pawn. Many players would automatically move the rook to e8 from the h, not the d. Many players would have played that move, h e8 instead of d e8. But this is actually the better rook to do that with, because if you think about it, what's the idea? Black is holding in his back pocket the ability to play h5, and what better to have than have a rook right there? Boom, baby, I'm gonna love it. So b3, d6, king f1. The king's trying to run for his life. Then h5, kerplunk, boom. Black seeks to exploit the pressure on the h file. Yep. a4. Too little, too late, my friend. Knight f5 going after the weak d pawn. And then bishop b2, which is actually a mistake here. The bishop defends the d4 pawn from a very passive square. So what he's thinking about, what the author was saying, is potentially rook a2 would be a better idea, exclam, just in case Magnus ever thought about taking here. The rook can actually come and then win the pawn back. So king d2, rook f3, king e6, if at this point here, rook e6 is a playable move too. Rook d2, and then king d7 at this point would be playable. G4 exclam was a brilliant actually move at this point, because what do you think it does? You're thinking, wait a second, aren't you losing your break? No. See, the rook was to come to the rook was to go to f3, right? So Magnus, by playing g4 or g5, sorry, stops the rook from being able to, not g5, g4, stops the rook from being able to come to f3. So he takes away the f3 square, and also still keeps in the works h5 or h4. So rook a c1, c6, and then f3, which again was a mistake by Magnus's opponent. He wanted to march Carlsen's king for basically trying to get the king here and try to get the pieces to defend it, but there was no chance of that happening. So Carlsen played h4 exclam at this point. Black's aggressive opens up the king side. He is now winning. This is winning right now. e4. H takes g. They're saying that if f takes g, knight takes knight e3 check, king e1, h3, king d2, takes g4, rook h1, rook e4, a3, h e8, and now this pawn will fall, and black would win here. So h g3, h takes g3, h takes g3, d takes d4. If you were considering this move here, it's not in the book, but I'll just show you. If you were considering this, that actually would win as well, because if the king really here, if the king comes up here, that picks up a bishop, so it can't do that. If the king comes here, you queen, and that picks up a exchange still, and he can't take here, because if he took, he loses the exchange. So he would actually have to come there, and Magnus would then be able to potentially check, I believe. Let me see here. Check here, see there. Check, takes. No, I don't like that. King G, I don't like G1. Just take. F takes there. There. And now Magnus would be up one whole pawn. So I don't think we'd want to replay it there. You can always just come over here and attack the bishop, and then get that involved like that. You don't have to gambit a piece. One second, I'm gonna get a drink. Hold on. He was saying if G takes, King F2, Rook H3, our H1 would win as well. He just went for the more simplistic one. F takes G. Rook takes E4. Black wins a pawn and attack, and his attack remains strong. Rook D3. Rook H1 check. Magnus gets practice settling for an endgame which he is 2 pawns up. King G2. Rotate C1. Bishop takes C1. Rotates G4. Bishop E3. C5. Bishop takes D. Rotates D. Rotates D. Pawn takes. C takes D. The pawn endgame with 2 extra passed pawns requires no effort to win here. King F2. King D7. King E2. King D6. King B4. Or B4. King E5. King D3. And then F5. He resigns in this because Magnus has gained space. What will eventually happen, we're going to put a mark here. Only move so I know where to delete back to. If A5, Magnus would play A6, the king would have to move back, king would come up. You play there, you play up here. You can actually check, if you check there, that's actually losing, so he wouldn't be able to do that. Just move your king up, the king comes over, and then you queen. So that's one part. That's if he plays A. If he plays B, we do the same thing. B6. If he goes back, we come up. If he comes over, we check. There, here, back, comes up, over. Actually, probably. I probably want to come in. Actually, now that I think about it, there. It's all based on opposition. So his opponent resigned here at this point, and he won a really good endgame page on that one. Gotta love it. Okay, we'll do some puzzles. Let's do a couple puzzles now. Board editor. This is going to be where it's interactive time with the viewers. So you're going to get the opportunity to find the mate in twos. So this is going to be asking you to actually solve this. Okay, I'm going to ask you to solve it, and you're going to give it your best effort and see how you do. That's the only way you improve in chess. Make sure I got this right. Oops, 2 kings. That's funny. Okay. There it is. White to move, mate 2. You type in the move sequences for white, and then I'll see if you're right. It's in, you have to take a look at it and do your best to find the mate 2. Alright, I will show you the move now. Knight takes, and then knight h6 is mate. Let's do a board editor and do it again. Another one. Another one bites the dust. Sorry. Gotta do that. Another puzzle bites the dust, actually. You gotta always love that. Gotta have a good time. The Lord's given us an ability of humor. You gotta always have a good time. Joyous heart. Alright, there we go. Let's do it to it. Let's see what the move combination could be here. Okay. Thinking queen c6, check, and that'd be mate because of here, here, and here. Alrighty, next, onward and upward. There we go. Same thing, mate and 2. Like to move mate and 2. Give you a sec to look at this. I'll be right back. see here. Queen takes. And f4 is checkmate. Yay! Great job there. Great work. That's how we like it. You got it. All right, same thing. Do you have the entire line? There's actually two checkmates. There's two checkmate and twos. You're correct on queen takes, c6 check. Excuse me. If b takes c, what do you play? If b takes c, what do you play? Thank you. Yep. If e takes or d takes c6, that's right. There you go. Got both mates. Great job. Oh, same thing. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put that in there. Same thing. This one's a little tougher, so, but I know you can solve it. I know you got it. I know you got what it takes. Mate 2 for white. Save check. Bishop checks on c6, pawn, and then push d7. Let's get another one set up. Queen takes. Mate. Sorry, I blitzed out that one move. It was a little too soon. There we go. Think double exclam. Think double exclam. If you thought queen g7, you were right. Double exclam, king takes, and then double check, mate on g6. Excuse me, that was a hiccup there. There we go. Let me see how we're doing at time. Perfect. We'll be able to get all the rest of these done, and I'll say adieu after this. We have after this one we got 3 more puzzles, and then we're good. So white to move mate 2. White to move mate in 2. If you said queen h5, you were right. King f6, queen g5 is mate. If king takes h5, bishop takes f7 is mate. So congratulations on finding both of those mates. Excellent work. Okay, dokie. There we go. Uh-oh, I made a boo-boo. Hold on. There we go, now we're right. One pawn move can really change the sitch of the matter. let's see here. F check. Going there. So that's not it. Check. King takes. Here still runs. So that's not it. F queen h5. Check. F pawn takes. Then rook h7 is mate. If king takes, rook takes h7 is mate. Two more. Queen to h5. King takes, bishop f7. And then if knight takes, queen h7 is mate. So one last stand. This one's a pretty fun one. This will be our last one. Mate 2 for white. Alright, if you said queen takes h5, you were 100% right. Exclam. Rook takes, and then bishop g6 is mate. And then if rook went g6, bishop takes is mate. If rook went g6, then queen takes is mate. So there's actually 3 different mates. And so, do you have any questions before I log off? Okay. You know what? Great job on all the puzzles and stuff that you're doing. Keep up the good work. Remember that treasure your victories and learn from your losses. And remember that mistakes do not define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you as a person and as a chess player. You have to always remember that there are plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond the plateau that you're at. See, the Lord made us have a wonderful mind that desires to honor and glorify Him always. It should, at least. And you know what? We have to remember to use our talents for Him. And what we have to do also is keep in mind to put on your chest cruncher glasses, as always. And remember that every long journey begins with one small step. Remember that you gotta take what you know and then apply it. And be willing to do something with it. And remember, your thoughts do matter in chess and with the Lord. So you should always think thoughts on the Lord that and the Holy Spirit, that they will help and direct and influence the things you do in your studies, in your profession, all of that. And let me see, I always think of the little engine that could. If you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. Either way, you're right. And let's see, do we have any other ones? Trying to think if, oh yeah, we have one more. Bruce Lee said that he didn't fear the person who practiced 10,000 individual kicks, but he feared the person who practiced one kick 10,000 times. Excuse me. So what we have to always remember is that that we need to practice our end games a whole bunch, and always be on guard to never get distracted by the things like other things. If we need to do our task, have the task be completed. Don't procrastinate, because chess crunchers, what do? They hang up their coat, they hang up their hat, they sit down and study when most won't. A chess cruncher does, and that makes all the difference. And as Wesley So says through the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, and Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. And we'll keep pushing forward. Same time, same station. Remember, though, what Hannibal Smith said, that a good plan is a plan that you are the one who knows what your opponent's going to do. You make a plan based around that, and you also have your plan that you don't forget about. Because what you have to do in chess, sometimes you have to stop your opponent's attack. Just take a second to do that, and then get involved and keep your attack going. Don't do reactive chess. Jeremy Silverman said that you got to be 100% and not do reactive chess. Well, I wanted to say 2 thumbs up, hoorah, be blessed, Team Chess Cruncher. Honor the Lord Jesus always, and as always, have fun, share the word, and share the love of chess. Bye-bye, and I'll see you tomorrow.